Robert Roy, speaker, author, action hero, veteran, uh, uh, a debonair brother. How
Yeah,
you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm doing what I can do, but that way.
Hey, amen. Listen, it's funny because I feel like I say this every week on Living Corporate. We get so many like guest requests or pitches rather,
Right.
and I mean, I was like from like Viking, Penguin, Random House, Public Penguin, and to like different PR agencies, to like
Right.
to corporate organizations, and like you filter through whatever. Um, and we actually, frankly, need to figure out a better process to ingest all of them. But the point is
Right.
that I was so pleasantly shocked when I saw your name, because we had connected like years ago
Yeah, we did.
doing Berkman.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Houston.
in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember and I remember at the time, so at the time I recall, it was a fairly diverse group, but
Yeah.
I feel like I was the youngest, and I think there weren't
You
a lot
were.
of, yeah, I might have been the
Yeah.
youngest.
Yeah.
You know what? I had to be the youngest because I'm 35 now. I was like
Yeah.
24
You
or
were
20.
really young back then.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was like it was over a decade ago.
Yeah. I was
And
surprised you were there. I'm like, what's this
yeah,
guy doing?
yeah. And we connected, got each
Yeah.
other's number. We were supposed to do
Yeah.
something, and I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm
Yeah.
self-conscious. You were so cool. You didn't text me back a couple times, like, dang, I don't want to annoy this guy. So I stopped.
Yeah.
But man, I'm just so glad that I'm so glad that we reconnected.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even know. It's so funny because I don't really even know where to start. Like, I feel like when I met you, and this conversation is a little bit about really about supporting veterans, and especially
Right.
supporting veterans in
Yeah.
the context of work.
Right.
What's interesting about your profile, Mr. Roy, is that, and I got to call you Mr. Roy because I was
Call me
raised like
Rob,
that.
man.
I'm
It's
gonna
your
call you.
show.
I'm gonna call you Rob. I'm gonna call you Rob. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna call you Rob.
Yeah.
So, so what's interesting though about your profile, right, is that I feel like you like took your brand and
Mhm.
your veteran status, and you really built, like, you took your veteran status in your journey and built an incredible brand around it, right? It
Yeah.
was funny because we met in that training thing, but I
Mhm.
connected the dots after we had after the training and parted ways, that I saw you on a show called Deadliest Warrior
Yeah.
before that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, I
Yeah.
guess I guess to start, like, talk to me about the journey of you, like, talk to me about your journey and what it was like to build like the Robert Roy brand. Because, like I said earlier, I wasn't trying to be funny. Like, you wear many hats. You've done a lot
Yeah.
of things. You're your own entity. Like, what did that look like for you? I would say, especially coming out of the military, like, what was that journey like?
Well, I can say a couple things about it that I think are important. When you just make the decision you're going to retire or get out of the military, there's this trepidation about, what am I going to do? Who am I going to work for? What can I do? When I be able to make the adjustment on the outside? What are the civilians like? And I went through that. It took 2 years to kind of decompress in the military and to trying to decide what do I want to do. But in going back further than that, I knew that no matter what I said this in my speech when I retired, it's like, no matter what I do, I'm going to be good at what I do because I've got years and years of experience of working with different people, different backgrounds, and diversity. I just have to decide what that's going to be. And I would say to any veteran that's going to get out is like you have to decide what area, what part of the country you want to live in. If you're married with kids, what's the responsibility behind that? What are you trying to, one, I wouldn't say try to prove, but what do you think your long-term investment of yourself is going to be? So if I did 20 years and I want to say I want to retire in Alabama, it's great down there. You can live off your retirement, your disability, great. That's what you're going to do the rest of your life. But if you're somebody like me is like, well, I don't really want to cut my grass in my black socks and wear a hat and just watch, Netflix the rest of my life. What can I do in my second and third stage of life? And so what's my brand going to be? What do I have to offer the civilian community that they're lacking? And you really got a soul search for that. And I found out that, no one's going to buy anything from me because no one knows who I am. It's like your podcast. People go to your podcast because they're like, this guy's successful. We want to do great things with him. But if you don't promote yourself, no one's going to promote you. Right. So if you're going to build your brand of who you are and what you're going to do, no matter what it is, it's like, who am I? Why does somebody want to go with me? Why does somebody want to work with me? Why does somebody want to hire me? And so that's when I started I did the PlayStation games. I did a couple of movies up in LA. I hung out with celebrities. I did all the things, always keeping in mind that this is my brand, who I am. I didn't compromise myself. I was like, and even when you work on the reality shows, I did one called um, the Rhino Wars, which I filmed in South Africa, and I was true to myself no matter what they said to me. So if I don't get enough screen time, that's fine. But I'm going to be true to myself when people look back at me and I go like, that's the same guy I saw on that one. That's the same guy I saw on that one. When that guy talks about leadership or team building or communication or whatever it's going to be from his heart because that's who he is. I think a lot of us get out and don't know who we are. And if you don't know who you are, it's a hard lesson to learn later in life to figure out this is who I am. But we know, we just ignore it. So I would say that getting out of the military or retiring or becoming a veteran, it's knowing who you are before you get out and then applying uh, the different tools that are out there, social media and stuff, to let people know who you are and not what you're about. Because you don't want to be egotistical. You don't want to seem like you're a problem. It's like, these are my skill sets that I can offer to you as an employer, not just my resume, but this is who I am. And how do you do that? It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different from everybody. Because when I saw you, probably 10, 15 years ago, I never thought you'd be on a podcast. Look at you now. I was like, you're just some kid, still in college. I think you were still in college at the
I
time.
was I was like right out.
Yeah.
It had been like maybe a year. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
young.
Yeah. But you were really young.
I was, man.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, man, because it was a grip ago. I think so. First of all, like I receive your point, and I think that the self-work part is
Yeah.
really underestimated. I think a lot of people not even jump into like do something. They jump into yeah, like things you got to build out and things like that. Or hey, first thing you got to do is create this and create that. And it's like, well, sure, yeah, but before any of that, like just
Yeah.
step zero is
Yeah.
who who are you and what
Yeah.
and are you comfortable with yourself so that you're being honest as you go out and you try to you try to forge these paths. Like
That's true.
if you're not being transparent with yourself, well then you go out into the world and I think this is a veteran application, but it's frankly it's a life application. You go out into the world and you don't understand why you're getting the things back that you're getting back. It's because maybe you haven't done the self work and reflection to understand what you're actually putting out there, and at least being
Well,
comfortable with it.
right. And your efficacy too. Like, what's your work ethic? Right. No one's going to give you anything. I know a lot, all of us want to get, 100% disability,
Mhm.
but that's not the end all of what you're going to do. I know people that are in college now, veterans, they're friends of mine. They're like, I'm just going to stay in school because I'm going to get those VA benefits. And I'm like, yo, man, the days you're in school and the days that you can go out and make things happen are different. The investment is in your education in school. That's great, but no one's going to hire you if you don't have the experience in that field to do that job. So you could learn. You get a master's in and what they call it, master's in business, right? Well, you get a master's in business or MBA. Okay, you're 40 years old. They're like, what have you run? What have you created?
Hmm.
I got a master's and I'm an MBA. But what have you? You're
What have you
45 years old. What have you done?
what have you done?
Yeah, what have you
Yeah,
done?
and I
Well, I got a
mean,
degree. No, it doesn't matter.
yeah, no, we're on the same page, right? Like I think, and I used to say this, and again, like it is funny, This is like I feel like the reverse is happening. Sometimes you hang out with people that remind you that you're old. I feel like you remind me that I'm young, but I remember some years ago, I would tell people that is like, and it's my own bias, right? Like because
Right,
I have a history of building things,
right.
so I would talk to people and say, hey, listen, yeah, okay, you got this degree, okay, yeah, you worked at where you went to whatever school. What have you done? Like what have you
Yeah,
created? Like, and I think when you talk about like real differentiation and and really like again like success and what people gravitate to.
Right.
I am continuing to learn that people gravitate to builders, right?
Right.
Like you get
Creative
like you
people. Yeah.
yes
Yeah.
they gravitate to like, oh, you innovated that, like you led that, you created
Yeah.
something, like because I think, and for creative people, like I'll say for me, right, like it's I underestimate how hard creating things can be because I'm fairly creative. But
Right.
like that's not the norm. Most people aren't just like building things. Most people are trying to figure out what they can latch on to work for or whatever. And so to
Mhm.
your point,
But you're
like
in your but you're in your field too, though. So you're building creatively in your field. So
fair,
it's easy for you. Yeah.
fair. That's
It's
a good
easy for
point.
you. Yeah.
That's a good point. And so, and you're right. And so to your and also to your point, like there's only so far the theoretical stuff can go. In fact, funny enough, I remember, so like, of course, now I'm doing living corporate full time, but before this, I was in consulting, and I was at Accenture and Capgemini and PricewaterhouseCoopers, and um, and people would go to Harvard, right, get their MBA,
Mhm.
but they didn't know what they didn't know what to do, and so what do they end up doing? They end up going into consulting. Well, once you get into like, you know, everybody's the same once you get up in here, right? Now
Yeah.
they might pay you
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
because whatever
Yeah.
they target schools, but hey, you right next to me. We building the
Yeah.
same PowerPoint decks. We got to put
Yeah.
together the same presentations,
Yeah.
and so it's like hey, like you know the degrees don't make. And I think even more. I think now more even than it was maybe true a decade plus ago is more and more organizations and frank again just people investors they're the degrees are helpful, right? I'm never going to be the one to tell you that college doesn't matter or anything like that. I wasn't raised like that. I don't believe that. At the same time, more and more, it's about what value can you create for me, right?
Yeah.
Where can I put you? Where can I drop you? And you generate some degree of return because of what you know how to build in your field, because of the actual experience and expertise that you have. You know, um,
Can I add one thing to that?
please.
And I want to say this to all, all the veterans out there that are listening and said, look, you're given a stipend to go to college. I think that's fantastic. I think that's, 9/11 bills, the 100% disability, you go to college. And this is capitalizing on what you're saying. But if you're just going to school and you're not using all that experience you had in the military, because it's got a date on it. What you learned in the military has an expiration date.
Hmm.
So if you're not utilizing your skill sets to stay on top of them while you're in school, then the value that you bring to the potential employer, and I'm agreeing with you that you build your own stuff, but if the potential you're bringing to your social media, potential you're bringing to an employer or potential clients, that's all being lost because you're going to spend 4 years basically not building on what you already know. You have 10, 15, 20 years of experience doing whatever job it is. And when you go to college, you're building on knowledge. All that goes with you. I mean, all that is part of you. And in order for you to be successful, it all has to stay with you. And this is like we were saying earlier, it's important that you know who you are and what you can accomplish, and also your work ethic, and you're building on that. You can't build a brand without a foundation. You and we're all brands.
I love that and agreed. You know, it's interesting, Rob. I think about again, we're talking about like veteran experience and
Yeah,
supporting veterans in the
yeah,
workplace. So I have a question. It's like it's a big question. Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna own it outright. That's a big question.
yeah,
Okay, so um, I have a lot of family members, like uncles, right, who are
right.
genuinely your age and also veterans, right?
Oh, no, that's a good thing.
It's awesome. What do you mean?
Okay.
And here's my here's the experience I have with
Yeah,
older black veterans
yeah,
compared to younger black veterans.
yeah.
Older black veterans seem to be much more socially conscious. I don't even want to say
Right.
leftist or anything like that. I don't. I reject I reject that framing because I don't. That's
I get where you're going with it.
and yet they're like it's almost like they are almost like no pun intended, a bit more militant in how they see the world and
Mhm.
their placement in it as black men. Like
Yeah.
like very like I feel like we even maybe had that conversation again like a decade plus ago of like that's probably why I got really excited about engaging because like oh wow he's like he has a very clear point of view about the world, his placement in it, his skill set, what his power to do and change the world in it, and at the same time he's not denying any realities of whatever. But then like when I meet like more like black veterans my age and younger, they're much more like politically like they're not engaged in the same way. And I don't even know, like they seem almost like much. I am gonna say they seem almost a little bit more far right wing. It's very interesting to me. And like again,
Oh,
I
that's interesting.
right. And so
Yeah.
like, and I've asked this question of various like again like older black seasoned. Let me not call you old, seasoned black veterans, and
Mhm.
like I'm just curious to get. I'm curious to get your perspective there. Like, as an example, and again, like Living Corporate is about real talk in the corporate world, right? Like, I have a friend of mine, great guy. He talks to me about some of the experiences that he's had in the military, and like he's like, look, man, it's like it's a fairly conservative environment. You kind of have you got to have a thicker skin. You're doing your thing, So, sometimes
Yeah.
there are things said, whatever. Um, and he would say, look, I find myself kind of leaning more that way. But then, like when I talk to again, like I have some older relatives who are like who fought in some old who are older and like their experience even and like the reason and rationale why they even joined the military might have been a little bit different too.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like again, I know I'm
Yeah.
asking a bigger question, but I'm gonna give you space. I'd love to hear your perspective.
I think I think a lot of it's hindsight when you're older. There's stuff that I put up with when I first came in the Navy that I would not put up with now. I realize my naivete, that when people say things, let's say racial things, right? Or not racial, because I know everybody gets picked on when they're military. The military is kind of this melting pot of no matter where you come from, we're going to kind of condition you into what we want you to be, and then you're going to be one of us. And so there's that mindset. There is with the younger guys that I work with now, there's a different work ethic with the younger people. And I want to say my perspective. This is from I served 25 years and I've been out for 20 and I got a corporation that I run is that what I value for me as a black man and what they value for themselves and see their place in life is different than how I see my place in life. I see myself, who I am, as a lighthouse. A lighthouse for other black men. I'm not telling you like a loudspeaker, this is how you should be. I'm saying, look at me. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to show you the obstacles that's going to stop you from crashing into the stuff that I had to deal with when I came in. And then that should give you social responsibility in what you're supposed to do. I I want you to take my lessons and then build from that to help other young black men become more so and white as well. But I mean, generally, I'm gonna not lean towards black men, but I'm gonna be like, hey, he's black. Let me see if I can help him out with it. I've trained a ton of kids, kids being like 20 years old to go to the SEAL, like I was a SEAL to go to program. I've trained even more people to join the Navy and saying that it's what you make it that's going to make you successful, but you got to give it a chance. And then I always say there is a social responsibility that you have when you join that you may not be aware of. And it's how people see you and how you want to be seen, right? If you don't want to be a stereotype, don't be a stereotype. If you want people to see you for your value, identify you as an individual, and then what you do with that to be successful moving forward, you have to leave some stuff behind. I I'll tell you that I don't want to go on and on about this, but I belonged to uh there's only so many Navy SEALs ever, right? There's only so many. There's like I think there's 10,000 people that have gone through the training program. But and this is something that most Black SEALs don't talk about because they're the only ones that can talk about it. There's probably under 110 uh, black blacks that have made it through the program, and I say blacks, not African Americans, because I believe the word black is about struggle,
Yeah.
and that the plantation mindset. You're still struggling with decades, and not to get this a racial thing. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm
No,
saying
no.
that there's a struggle that with the word black that emphasizes that you came from nothing and you're making things happen. So it's a lot of value to me. So there's probably 110. I want when I left there was 99. When I left, I mean like we're on the internet communicating with each
You're
other.
saying all over, Rob, there's only 110 Black SEALs?
Yeah. I mean like total. The oldest Black SEAL just died. The first Black SEAL just died probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Rob, wait a
Yeah.
minute. Wait,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Are you saying there's 110 who've like of all time? You're like
Yes.
not like this year. You mean
Yeah.
ever?
Yeah. Ever.
Why? Why? That
Yeah.
seems like such a. Now look, hold on. To context, I am
I know it's
flabbergasted.
it's a mind-blowing number,
That's
but
so small.
it
No, wait,
is super small.
Rob. Nah, hold on, man. So wait a
Yeah.
minute. Nah, we're gonna have to slow down and talk about this because okay. So I have looked on YouTube and I recognize
Yeah.
that I saw how the SEAL training is, right? It
Right.
seems to be physically the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, okay. So
It
I'm not
is.
saying it's
It's
easy.
just it's not easy.
I know it's not easy,
It's
but
not easy.
damn, 110 people of all time since the
Yeah.
foundation of the SEALs? How long
Yeah, it's about
how long
110. Now there's more people that have tried out for it, but there's only 110 of us
that have passed?
that are passed.
Okay, you were in the middle of saying something. I'm just shocked at that
No,
number.
that's no. I'm glad you stopped, but it's a number. People don't talk about it. People don't, and I want to say it's 110 now because I just saw some guys graduate the other day. But it's some guys like two. There's like 300 people. Like I live in Coronado, so I see them running up and down the street, and now I got my nephew with me, and I'm like, what do you see about the number of people you see? Because I don't know where they're going and what they're doing. I said, what do you see about the group of people that are running by? And he's like, well, I don't see anything. So you don't see any black people in there. He's like, what? I go, you don't see any black, but they only run 5 of those classes a year. And you can count on your hand for the year how many black people you'll see in any one of those classes.
Because the failure rate is very high.
The failure rate with the program is very high. The failure rate with a black person going through the program is not that high. Yes. So you're more apt to make it through the program if you're black than not. If you're more apt if you're Asian to make it through the program than you're not. Yeah, it's high for white people. Super high. It's like 80 something percent. Yeah,
Well,
the
if
number.
that's
Okay. So when you look at the numbers, not to break this thing down. I know this is not your podcast, but it is interesting stuff. But
it is.
when you break the numbers down, the majority of people that go to SEAL training are white. So you have a smaller number of Asians, Hispanics, and blacks to go to the program, but they want to be there. Like they're not like, oh, I'm changing I want to be part of this organization. So they want to be there. They want to make a difference in their life and they want to make things happen. So you're gonna because they want to be there. There's a why for where they would be there. There's a less likelihood of them not making it to the program overall. So it's more than a 50% chance you'll make it. If you have the same qualifications as everybody else, there's a more than a 50% chance you're going to make it because of all the, uh, I don't want to say stressful, environmental things you went through growing up. A lot of us don't have fathers in the home. A lot of us
Spring
had
kind
to
of
fight
rises
our
to
way
the
up there.
top,
Yeah,
though.
right. So they're always going to be that number of guys going to make it through. But yeah,
Okay.
so my younger brothers that are here are completely different than us older guys. The older guys want to give back to the community, want to help out, and the other guys are all the younger guys. This is why I'm not a part of it because we had a fracture, and our group. There's two groups now. There's not one group. You got all the old guys from like the beginning, and you got all the young guys in the last 10 or 15 years, and then people want to be involved in politics. I don't think we should do that. I think that we shouldn't be involved in politics. We should be a very non-political organization, and we should be working towards helping young other African Black people get to the program, or minorities, or whatever we want to do. But we need to be this silent group that does these creative, empowering things, and we couldn't get there because the younger guys want to do something different. It's like, yeah, I respect you. That's what they tell you. I respect you, but I think we should do this instead. Like, all right. When you get to my age, you're going to go, I wish we'd have done that. They
And
just can't see.
and you know what's so funny about that? So first of all, I'm not speaking on SEAL business. I'm not no SEAL. What I will say about age, though, to your point, is
Yeah.
the older I get, the more, and especially in a season like this, because I was asking my mom and I was asking my dad. Both of my parents just recently turned 60. So I was talking to them about, I said, both of my parents were born in the civil rights era.
Yeah.
So that, both of them were born without all of their current rights. And so they were born into this world without all their current rights. And so, but I asked my mom, I was like, what did y'all do? Like coming up, in a world where it was just much more naked in its disposition towards you. And our answer is we did what we could. We minded our business, we focused on our community, and we worked together. We supported each
Yeah.
other.
Yes.
And the older I get, I'm like, I was talking to my wife about it, especially in light of, look, I have two, again, like it's been a while since we spoke. I have two
Yeah.
small daughters, right? I have a 4-year-old
Yeah.
and I have a 2-year-old. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And again, I'm married. I'm married. My wife is a Black woman, so I'm in a house full of Black women.
Mhm.
And I think about this world and I'm just like, man, okay, what does it look like to protect them? What does it look like to support them? I think about my cousins and my immediate extended family. And I'm like, and so I taken that advice, like, okay, what can you do? Like, okay, I guess you go political route, but like, there's some things you can do immediate local to like lift
Right.
and support your people and
Right.
support your community, support other historically marginalized people. Like there's things that you can practically, tangibly do.
Mhm.
There's group practices that you can build, community you can build. And I think perhaps probably a decade plus ago, I would have thought about the political levers, but the older you get, you realize, um, you realize there are certain things that look away, and there are
Yeah.
certain things that are real, and
Right.
those people are real. So, one, that's just, again, that's flabbergasting. I'm gonna take what you said, and I'm gonna go somewhere with a question.
Okay.
If it, that is so crazy, I promise. I'm about to, when we get off this pod, I'm gonna tell my wife that there's only 110 Black Navy SEALs
Yeah.
ever.
Approximately. Yeah.
Approximately, that's
Yeah.
nuts. But
That's
but
not active duty.
yeah,
That's not active
yeah, I
duty.
know that's the
That's
crazy part.
total. Yeah.
Ever, right? So
Yeah.
so here's, and then and again, to your point, like the degree of the failure rate is much lower, again, for other historically marginalized groups, disadvantaged groups, etc. I would think that employers, corporations, etc., would be going out of their way, right,
Mhm.
looking for these veterans to hire. I'm curious, like, what do you think companies, we started talking about individual responsibility,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is important. What do you think companies could be doing better to drive veteran representation for their businesses?
Um, I think it's the veteran. The veteran has to be. This may come out. I'm now I'm in my third career, so I'm a therapist now. I took my Berkman stuff, and I'm the stabbing guy. I'm the hunting poachers in Africa, and then I just recently got my master's in counseling. So I'm a therapist. I see homeless vets all the time. I work with them and other homeless people as well.
Wow.
And that's kind of it's not my give back. It's my next stage in life. And the gray works for me up there because then they're like, oh, he's an older guy. He's got wisdom. Uh, so I wear a sweater because it's more appealing to the clientele that I talk to. I mean, I also have my business where I teach team building and leadership. And to answer your question on veteran representation, I'm going to answer it like this. veterans have a certain stereotype that go along with them that I think sometimes works to their disadvantage. Um, when when I go into an organization and I got a SEAL background, all the people that work for me, and it's not a how to put this. So all the people that are my coaches that work for me are all people that are veterans. You don't have to be a veteran to work. We have one girl that's not a veteran, but you have to understand how veterans think. And that's not because the company we're going to work for is like pro-veteran or it's a military organization. It's just that veterans do things a specific way. Commander's intent. There's the the plan, the execution, the mission, all that stuff. So it's easier for me to talk to veterans that would want to wait. I'll send them to school too. I was like you went to Berkman, right? So if I had a veteran that's willing and capable of doing that, I'd send them to Berkman. I send them to coaching school. I would do all the things that would make them better because I know I'm gonna have loyalty from them and I'm gonna get 100% effort from them. But I also need them to be more corporate. So when we walk into an organization, they're like, well, these guys are all veterans. But most people think the first thing people think about veterans is what? Military organization. You're gonna teach me how to kill babies. This is what's in their mind. This is what's on television. Veterans are gonna snap. This is what the world says about veterans. Unstable. So I always tell my staff, you're going to be in uniform. You represent the company, and it's not the company that you're representing. I mean, you're representing the veterans, but more importantly, you are showing the company that hired us they made a good decision by hiring veterans. I don't ask for discounts. I don't ask for anything. We walk in there and these are principles we learned from the military. This is what I always say. These are principles we learned from the military. They're applicable in this power dynamic that you're having now, the power wheel of choice. We are here to help you streamline this and to communicate with and get people back on the same page by some of the techniques and some procedures we use while we're in the military that are going to be beneficial for you, but in a manner in which my degree has helped me speak your language and help me understand. And I'm in the corporate world as well, but these are things that are going to help you with your team because this is what works for the military. I'm not going to put you in boot camp. Well, there's some parts of it I do that with, but not trying to make you a sailor, not trying to make you join the military, but these are proven techniques. They're going to help you. Commander's intent, right? A vision for the company. I can walk into like I'm going to be speaking to a bunch of guys. This company, I'm going to be talking to their warehouse people. And the warehouse people don't know. I know who the CEO of the company is. They don't know him. I call him by his first name and I'm just talking. They go, they don't know who he is, the HR people. And I said, oh, she said at lunchtime, she goes, you're talking to them like they know him. They don't know him. I said, oh, okay. So when I came back, I said, basically, your CEO, I know him, he's a friend of mine, but I'm not here on his behalf. I'm here because we're here to help you on his behalf. And that if you want to be on a first name with your CEO, these are some of the techniques and policies. It's going to help you get there. But you trying to get there by, I'm just going to work to the next level is limiting your structure. I said, the military set up where you can be in the same job for a number of years, but in 3 years, you need to move. And in 4 years, if you haven't advanced, you're done. So you're always constantly trying to improve yourself. I think a lot of veterans forget that when they get out. They forget about the advancement. You got to keep advancing. And when you go to a corporation, you're going to be the celebrity if they've had good relationships with the military. People are going to come to you, talk to you because you're the veteran. And you may get I know one guy I work with at another company. I don't work with him. He's part of an organization and he's a veteran there. And they're always looking to him like, what are they saying? It's like, I don't need you to speak for us because you're a veteran, because what we're doing is not veteran stuff. But I need you to be the veteran and we will rely on you to show them that these are the values that you bring to the table. But he had never brought any of the stuff up he did in the military with the people that he worked with. It's crazy.
It is. And something that you said, and first of all, congratulations on being a therapist, a counselor now. That's incredible.
Thank you.
So you made a point about, sometimes, from your perspective, veterans, they lose that that the principle of the continuous self-improvement.
Right.
Um, I think you embody that, right? To your point, you're on your third career, right? Like in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
like veteran,
Yeah.
action, Hollywood, media, therapy,
Yeah.
like that's incredible. I think my and this is still probably younger age speaking, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Is how did you not get tired, right? Because to your point, you talking about 25 years in, 20 years out,
Yeah.
like, right? So let's just say let's say if I join the military and let's just say I join the military, I'm 19. Okay. So by the time, before I'm 40, I've, I'm, I've got 2 decades in this thing.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to veterans who say, look, I put in my 20 years, I'm tired. Like, like what was your motivation to keep going? I would imagine, Rob, that you at least took a couple siestas. Imagine you took a vacation or two, but
No,
like,
no, man. I believe, and I learned this a long time ago, is that there's two things that I've carried around with me. Is that your life is a book that you write. Every day is a page of the book. And how thick do you want that book to be? How many chapters do you want to have in that book? Right. That's one thing that I carry with me all the time. And so every time I do something new, it's a different chapter that I can always go back to, and I can read back at my past and go, I did this, I did this. These are different chapters of my life, and every day I do something, it's a page.
mm,
The other thing I say with people I'm training or people I work with, there is no finish line. And I guess the best way to look at that is, if I can use an analogy, is that we're all on the 100-yard line. We all run 10-9, right? We're not the best, but we're 10-9. So you and I are running next to each other. At what point when we get to that finish line, are you going to stop?
mm,
Are you going to stop at the finish line?
mm,
Are you going to stop just on the other side of the finish line?
mm,
For
yeah,
me, I'm going to run that pace at the finish line and beyond the finish line, and I'm getting ready for my next race.
mhm,
A lot of people's mindsets are, I retired, I get my disability, I'm good to go. I got this nice paying job, and that's it. And there's no finish lines in life. And to really push that point forward in Bud's training, for like 2 weeks, they run you to the same spot, 4 weeks, 4 miles, same spot. You run it and then eventually everybody, you get your lungs, you get caught up. Now you're able to keep up. The first time they do it, most people fall back and they get this thing called goon squat. Then one day, this one run, everybody's kept up for the entire 4 miles, right? And you run back to the same spot, you get there, and then you stop. Except on this one day, the instructors know they're going to run beyond that 4 miles. They hit that 4 mile, and it's just because I was one of the guys in the group. They do it to every class. We're running, and I'm in the middle of the pack, and I'm like, finally, I'm finally up with everybody. This is what it feels like to be up here, right? Staying with the stack. I'm like the third row back. And then we hit that one spot that they always stop at, and they go, okay, drink some water. Then they didn't stop. But mentally, probably I would say 80% of the class stopped. It was like somebody shot the group. We got
yeah,
like 10 yards back. It's like it's almost like somebody was standing on the other end, and they basically just fired bullets, and people were stopping and falling down. And I just kept running because I was like so used to being in the back. I was just happy to be there, and they just kept running. And like, what's going on? And I'm kind of looking around like, what's going on? Because I've always had to strive. I'd always had to push myself to not just get to the finish line, but to get beyond the finish line. So I was like, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just going to keep running. And then we ran like another 150 yards, and then we stopped. There's like 7 of us standing there, and you can see like everybody else just sprung all out, and they're mentally they stopped. And so I was like, that sealed in my mind that there's always, don't run to the finish line. Just don't do it. You win an award, good. What are you going to do next? What's next? What's next for you? What's next? And I think not just vets, but everybody. It's like, what's next? what's next? I don't think you should stay in any corporation for 25 years. I think that you give them the time, because you're not going to grow working at that company for 20 years. You're going to get used to the policies. You're going to learn the politics behind it, but you're not going to grow. You need to go someplace else. You need to go to a larger company. You need to go to a smaller company. If you can afford it. And it's good when you're young to do it, because you can bounce around. But when you start getting to corporate levels, that's why they bounce around. There's CEOs that are making big money are at different companies, and they learn how different companies work. They come in with a strategy of how I'm going to change things, and they get a reputation for doing that. And they're actually working. They're modeling the behavior before they show up and what they want to have happen when they get there.
Yeah.
No one knows who you are. No one knows what you can capable of. They're like, who's this guy? And so never stop. Always keep training. Never look for a finish line.
Rob, this is so fire, man. Again, I was excited we were able to reconnect. You
Yeah.
know, I want to talk a little bit about the intersection of lived experience and identity and veteran status, right? So
Right.
it's interesting. At Living Corporate, we do a lot of data analytics, right? So we
Mhm.
help organizations understand just where they're at. And
Yeah.
so many companies, they have a bunch of data, but they haven't necessarily done any type of like actual analysis of it to understand like their people representation. It's interesting because um in my past, like in my experience, when we look, and especially if we can understand and dissect or filter data by veteran status, we'll see veteran representation.
Oh yeah.
Oftentimes, though, Black and Brown veterans are not in the same leadership positions and opportunities as their white counterparts.
Mhm.
I'm curious, like what what do you think is important about recognize like do you think there's value in recognizing different veteran experience? You kind of already spoke about it with the SEALs thing, which is just again blowing my mind. But what do you think the dangers are of kind of treating veterans as a monolith at work?
Oh, it isolates them. It isolates them. You have to, there's a certain amount of jealousy that comes across, like what all they did was serve. People tend to minimize what your contributions are,
Mhm.
especially if you're not continuing those contributions, right? You did the 4 years, you get involved in veterans, um, what do you call those? Programs. And okay, yeah, that's great. He's doing all these great things. But then you're like, well, I'm a veteran and now I'm supposed to be given all these other things. I think there was something that you said I wanted to key in on veterans, and this is because we don't want to paint all the veterans with the same brush, but there are the veterans that get out and expect the rewards, expect the rewards that I would never ask for.
Give me an
Like
example.
I would never ask for. I would never, and it's almost like I say this the right way. So I was at the place I work at, the homeless shelter, and I work with vets up there. And then one of the case managers said, "Hey, here's some places that are going to give free meals away to veterans for Veterans Day." And oh, so that's cool. So these are the places I won't be going to. She's like, "What?" Yeah, I typically don't do that. I think it's great for people that are homeless, but I don't need to get a free meal because I'm a veteran. I served the country because I thought that's what. And I didn't give her a speech, but it's like I served the country because I thought that's what was needed of me at that time. I think it's great they want to do that. I think it's great for the homeless people to go to get those meals, the veterans to go there. But there's a percentage of the population that resents when you do that.
Mm.
I've been with people and we've been out to dinner and they go, "Is there a veteran discount?" And I'm like, "You could afford to buy everything in here, and you're asking for a veteran discount." I see it at hotels. I mean, I get the hotels, you can do it. I mean, but and maybe I'm being snobbish about it, but I just think that you served. Let me put it this way. So when I get ready to board a plane, I have status. I'm sure you do too.
Mhm.
They go, the military people aren't come on board the plane. It's veterans, active duty veterans can go on board the plane. I'm like, well, that's cool. But in the same token, I'm like, how are you representing the military walking on that plane? How do
Mm.
you represent us when you walk aboard that plane? It's they're giving you something visually. What am I seeing? And I don't see appreciation. I don't.
Mm.
I don't see it. And that upset every time I fly, I'm like, it was almost better when they said you had to fly in uniform when you're flying because then you carried that with they don't let you fly. You can board the plane first if you're active duty and you were in uniform. When they took the active duty uniform out and said you can wear whatever you want, people wear whatever they want, which is what you know this kid's going to wear. He's going to wear whatever he was in his neighborhood. That's what he's going to wear. And so you sit there like, I'm going to wait for this to board the plane, and you create resentment. And I think that some people, younger people, don't understand that.
Mhm.
Is that you're representing the veterans, every place you go, and that should be your mantra when you're out there. Is I'm a veteran. I'm representing all veterans because these benefits we're getting in this society that doesn't have the connection to the military like it used to, like everybody that served knew someone that served. You don't have that anymore. And so my cousin, my uncle, my brother, my sister, my dad served. You don't have that like you used to anymore. So they don't understand it. And so because they don't understand it, your job as a veteran is to not promote it, but to showcase the benefits of service.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
And
do.
yeah,
So Rob, like, so okay, as just a point of observation, right?
yeah.
You are. I would say something for real. You are so like, like, like so principled, right? It's almost like a comic book hero. Like it's like
Yeah.
Captain America, to be honest. It's very interesting. Like your framing of all of it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
so um it's I find it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I also think like historical context is important, right? So like
Okay.
so and I know you're not 100 years old. I do
No,
think
I'm not
about
100 years old.
my great uncles now, right? So
Yeah.
my grandfather's brothers, they went to the military, and some of my older uncles, they went to the military as a point to escape, to get out of the South,
Yes.
economic opportunity,
And the
career.
South followed him.
Yeah, and the South
Yeah,
followed.
the South followed him. And the Army. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I know. It followed him.
and so like I think I think the context of older veterans, particularly Black veterans,
Yeah.
going into the military and the pride and because there's also like that's also tied to that's also a generational thing, right?
Well,
Like
yeah. Yeah.
it's like it's military, yes, and it's also generational. So it's like, okay, look, my father was a sharecropper.
Mhm.
I'm about to be a sharecropper. If I don't, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the army instead.
Right. That's right.
And so now, right, fast forward 30, 40, 50 years later, this veteran who built a career and built a career that they saw their peers and had things that they, even though of course they were still mistreated, but
Mhm.
they had experiences that their peers did not. They were able to economically, they were in a different place, even in spite of, again, like disadvantage. I certainly can empathize and understand how an older veteran would then look at like this era and be like, okay, wait, what is this? Because when I served and joined and I put on this uniform, I was representing, I wasn't just yes, I represent serving my country. I don't want to minimize that. I'm
Yeah.
also representing the legacy of my family, of the people that
Right.
I care about, of my
Right.
community. I happen to have this uniform on, and that's important. And there's also a story and reason. Kind of goes back to what you said earlier about these
Yeah.
about those seals.
Yeah.
Um, look, first of all, we got to have you back on a part two, but let me ask you one more thing. You know, um, there is ongoing scrutiny of how politicians and political talking heads hail the need for a national defense and how much they love and we need a strong military budget and spending. At the same time, the benefits and the things like I'm not talking about discounts and stuff like that. I'm talking about the programs of assistance
No,
and
no,
things
no. Yeah.
for veterans, frankly, have continued to be gutted over the decades.
Yeah.
And let me even be more generous. Let's say even if they haven't been, let's say if you disagree with me in my language of saying that certain benefits have been gutted, they certainly haven't been invested upon in the same way that they've been invested upon on like their entry. That the exit investment is not equitable. It's not the same.
Oh no. The entry is way more than exit. You know,
What would you what would you and so like my question is
yeah.
like my question to you is like what is do you have hope that our institutions will improve for veterans to give them the support they need, or do you feel like we're kind of on our own?
Well, that's kind of a two-parter, and I'll try to be brief with it. But I agree with you that the money we put, the down payment we put on the sailors and sailors, airmen, and soldiers that come in is not worth the return on investment
Hmm.
because they've lowered the entry level requirements, and then you're giving them more money. So now you're telling, because it's all about brand, right? We go back to Brand, the early brand. So what's the brand of someone joining the military now? Is it the high school diploma? Is it the smartest kid? Is it the one that everybody was seeking? It's not. It's they just what last year they were like, oh, we're going to drop the AFQT scores down to 25 or I think it's 15, and they already know because they did this years ago during World War II that the IQ. I would have been one of the people that told you 2 years ago, 4 years ago, IQ doesn't matter because you can make things happen. Because I mean, I graduated high school and then I went on and went to college, but I did all the stuff I did with high school education, and I consider myself relatively smart, educated. That's not what's coming in the Navy now.
Hmm.
That 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 broken home, that um, uh, it's triggered. The emotionally damaged child is now not smart and not creative and no work ethic. It's coming in because I train people now too, and I'm amazed at what they don't know. What they don't know. Like, why would you join the Navy if you can't swim? Why would you join the Army if you've never been in a fight? Right?
So Rob. So it's funny. So or not funny. I don't know. Maybe it's probably
Yeah.
more sad. There was a video. So one, there's been studies and articles done, right, talking
Yeah.
about how like this generation's high school graduate
Yeah.
in the military,
Yeah.
they lack like a bunch of fundamental like life skills.
Life skill. Exactly.
They come into the military. In fact, I was just talking to a younger veteran. And when I say younger, I mean like he's like in his late 20s. Okay.
30.
Yeah, he's young, right? And
Yeah.
so, but he was talking about how like even just like bathing, like just
Yeah.
literally like there's certain things that like they just don't. He and again like he's fairly smart and he
Right.
came his background's a little bit different, but he was just saying he was like man like he's like I was just so blown away when I was seeing people my age, like they didn't know how to use a computer, they didn't know how to just navigate the world. It's like yo, how did you even get here? And then I remember I was watching a TikTok of a and they were recording and they were somewhere overseas and they were pointing at the sky. Okay, Rob, they're pointing at the sky.
Mhm.
They're like, "What is that? What is that? What could that be?" Because in the middle of the day,
Yeah.
And they're and the dude was like, "Yo, that's the moon. That's the moon." He said, "But it's
Oh,
the middle of the day."
yeah. If you're
It's like,
in the
yeah,
the middle of the day, yeah, yeah, yo, because they equinox, yeah,
yeah. He's like,
yeah,
"Yo,
yeah, yeah.
the moon doesn't come out in the day." So I was like, "Yes, yes, it does. It can come out. You can see the moon in the day."
And
So
that's the
yeah,
education system.
yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like
And that's overall though, because so you know, that's not just the military, that's in business as well.
100%. And so,
Yeah.
like, my concern when I think about the future of work, and obviously work applies to the military as well,
Yeah.
is that our lack of investment in the institutions and infrastructure that we need for our young people, which is young people are the future, right? They can the degradation of these institutions, it poses a threat to everybody, right? Like if people are coming into the world of work or branch of military and they're not able to do certain things, well, that's more labor and effort on their instructors or managers or whomever to upskill them to get to a point. So then productivity and efficacy and impact goes down.
You can
Um,
you
yeah.
can train people though. You can a person that's willing to invest in their future has to understand what a future is.
Mm.
See, that's the thing, is that you can I have a young my nephew, I'm raising him. Long story, but my sister grandson died, and it's a problem with his family. But anyway, I said, yeah, I'll raise him. I'll get him in high school, and you know he had some issues. You know, family, right? You take
Mhm.
care of family. Smart kid. Well, he is the videos he watches and the videos I say you should watch are totally different. So it's like it's easier for him to be bad than it is to be good. It used to be it's used to be easy based on social upbringing that it would be easy to do the right thing, and now it's gotten to it's hard to do the right thing. It's easy to do the bad thing. It's easy. I said to him one day, I said, hey, I said, where are you going this weekend? What do you want? And I said, what's your plan for tomorrow? He says, oh, I don't actually have a plan. I said, you going to go with your friends? He goes, yeah. So what's the plan? Because we just kind of get together and decide. I said, I'm going to give you a bit of advice as your uncle. Um, do something. I just switched over. My thing came on. Hold on a second.
No problem.
Oh, there it is. It came back on. All right. Oh, no, it didn't. Oh, yeah, bro. All right. Is everything back on? Yeah. Okay, we're good. And I'll
Gotcha.
leave you. I'll leave you with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I said, no matter what your friends are telling you, no matter what, someone in that group has a plan. Someone in that group is a leader. You just don't know what it is because you're not even a follower. You're sheep. You're gonna be herded to go and do whatever they want you to do. And I was like, that is no way to lead your life because they can lead you to whatever they want you to do. And I said, you're a young, smart kid. You need to be able to plan, regardless of what they're going to do, what you need to do and what you want to do. So if you want to go to the mall and they don't want to go to the mall, you're not going to go to the mall because they're not going to want to go. If you want to go to a movie, they're not going to want to go because you're relying on them to tell you what your future is going to be. You're going to end up being 18 years old and not know what you want to do. I said, that's your generation. I said, that's your generation. I am not telling you don't hang out with them. I'm not telling you they're bad people. I'm saying that whenever you tell, if ever in the future ask your question, what are you going to do? You need to tell me what you were planning to do, not what somebody else is planning to do, because that tells me that you have control over and it's taken a while. He's getting there, but it's still like, they're like, they don't want to tell us they're doing anything. I'm like, because they don't. because you're sheep. And a lot of these kids now are just sheep. They just go wherever it's like, whoever the popular person, whoever has the biggest, um, that whether it's drugs or alcohol, who has the most bad behavior,
Mm.
it's who they go towards. It's like they can't. It's almost like they can't. It's like I think it's generational
Mm.
that. And I was like, but there's kids at your school that want to go to college because I don't want to go to college. And I go, it's not about going to college. It's about making a determination
What you do
about
want to
what your
do.
future, what you want to do. So it's not just about college. It could be the military state, but you know what's going to happen? You're going to turn 18 years old. You're living in my house, and you don't have a plan. I got a plan for you. It's not going to be here because I've been telling you for 2 years, you need to know what you're going to do. And you can't just live off me, right? Like when I grew up, they go, well, you're out of here at 18 years old. I'm saying it's not going to be like, I'll send you back to your dad. But if you haven't made a plan, because no one can take care of you when you're 18 years old. And
Mm-mm.
he's like, what? I go, no,
Mm-mm.
it isn't like that.
Mm-mm.
And I'll tell you this last thing, and I'm sorry to belabor this, but I've seen, there's two kids at where I work at, they're homeless.
Mm.
Guess how old they are?
Under 30?
Under 30.
Wow.
Two kids. They're kids to me, and I see them. I'm like, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. I don't say that to them because they're clients, and I can't tell you more about them. But the road they took to get to that place is filled with bad decisions.
Mm.
I'm sorry, bad choices.
Mm.
Right? It's just, and that's how I see most of the younger generation. Bad, really bad choices. And when you make bad choices, it limits your ability to create a direction where you want your life to end up. Because it's like you got all these choices, and
Mm.
then these choices are leaning towards this direction. It's impossible to get back over to the other side because you made all these over here, right? I mean, can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. But mentorship, mentoring, and then you got to want to change. You got to want to do it, right? And that's hard to do. You get a 16-year-old boy that feels that he wants to stand on his blackness because
Mm.
I'm black. I'm going to be like, say, but you don't know what black is,
Mm.
right? You want to stand on it, but you don't know what it is.
Mm.
Because if you stood on it, you'd dress better, you'd act
Mm.
better. The people that marched across that bridge in Selma with the dogs in the water, they're all in suits. They're all appreciative of each other. You wearing Timberlands? That's your blackness? not, not to go off on a tangent,
Roy,
but
Roy, Roy, man. Look, man. First of all, man, it's love.
yeah,
I'm gonna text you this time. Text me back, man.
I will, man.
Hey, look.
I'm glad you're doing well, man.
Hey, I'm glad you're doing well. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure always. Hey, look, it's been Rob Roy again. Veteran, business owner, speaker,
yeah,
movie star,
yeah,
action star, therapist,
yeah,
counselor,
yeah,
volunteer, non like leader, man.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Look, we're gonna make sure we get this out. Make sure y'all click the links in the show notes to learn more about Rob Roy. We'll learn more about his journey, more about his company, more about the things that he's passionate about. Rob, it's been a pleasure. We can't wait to have you back, man.
All right, man. See you later.
Peace.
Bye.